Hi, my name is Juan, and welcome to The Couch, a podcast where real therapists talk about real things. Please remember that we are therapists, but we are not your therapists, and this podcast is intended for educational purposes only.
Now, my friends, this is a mini episode focused on relationships. Now, what I'm going to share with you, it could really be instrumental to anyone working with a couples counselor, or you're working with somebody on an individual level. Because what we're going to get into is understanding the four areas of a relationship, or in a better word, the four horsemen of the apocalypse in a relationship. Now, this comes from the work of the Gottman Institute. For us, we're going to break this down so that we can really understand it. I want you to take a step back. And if your goal is to work on building a healthy relationship in your life, right, which for a lot of us, that's our goal, you can use these nuggets that we're going to get into. Now, if you want a reference, you can go to the Four Horsemen worksheet, put that on Google. You're going to find ample information there. You're going to see criticism, you're going to see contempt, you're going to see defensiveness, and then you're going to see stonewalling. Now, I will share, this is one area that we're going to go into, but there could be so many when it comes to the work of how can I get better, grow, heal in this area of building relationships. And we're going to make this really interesting because we're going to focus it on specifically you working to build a healthy, successful, your version of it, relationship with your significant other. So with these four areas, well, I'll mention them again. You have criticism, you've got contempt, you've got defensiveness, and you got stonewalling. These are actually behaviors that people tend to do in a relationship when, really when you hit a level of discomfort. And then the question that comes up is like, where did they come from, right? Did I just come into life and all of a sudden I'm stonewalling? Well, there's a lot of neat research that shows these items, these variables, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling can develop through our childhood. They could develop through observation that we've seen from our parents, our guardians, our microsystem. So just as a side note, you've got your microsystem, which is like the immediate environment around you, family, friends, community, and so forth. It could be that some of these may be picked up from really unhealthy relationships you went through. So let's just use one as an example, stonewalling. So stonewalling is where you withdraw from your partner. And they call it stonewalling. I like to think about it as you become a wall. So that's where your partner is trying to tell you something. They're saying, hey, it really bothered me that we made a plan to go out to dinner. And, it was 4 o'clock and we're supposed to be there at 5. We had reservations. I took off from work. You said you were going to be there. You didn't show up. I felt alone. I felt hurt. And your partner, they're just shedding layers right there. They're being vulnerable and really wanting you in that intimate space with them. And what happens in that moment is we have one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse. It comes out and this is wall. And it's where you are blank, emotionally unavailable. You are distant from them. And the distance can be seen. Sometimes it can be felt. This behavior often I'll see when I'm working, even with a one-on-one individual. They may share with me, yeah, I do that. And at least from my end, when I approach working with individuals, it's love, it's compassion. Sometimes we do things that we're not very proud of, but we got two options. One is we work on ourselves through a lens of judgment and hatred and attacking, or we work on ourselves with a viewpoint or a perspective of, right, I deserve love. I deserve grace. I'm going to get back up. I've done some wrong here, but I'm ready to do some right. I encourage the second. The second's going to get you a lot farther, in my humble opinion. Now, these four horsemen, right, again, criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling. The research from the Gottman Institute, it shows that these are what are called like divorce predictors or separation predictors. So when these take place in a relationship, it's like this red flag of, whoa, we got to get away from this. Now, there's different debates about this. I am not on this podcast sharing with you that I invented this or I'm the expert in this. I am more highlighting that. I've gone through training as far as the Gottman. I've worked with couples for over a decade, went through graduate and doctorate school. I enjoy learning. That's basically what I'm trying to share with you. I enjoy learning, and what I've learned is that these 4 areas, criticism, contempt, and defensiveness, and the last one, stonewalling, if they're showing up in your life, you've got to ask yourself something. When I criticize, or when I engage in contempt, or when I engage in defensiveness, or when I engage in stonewalling, is it helping? Right? Am I planting a good seed in this relationship that is going to grow into a beautiful magnolia tree? And if the answer is F no, then we need to stick our hand in that dirt and pull out that sucker. And sometimes it's a deep ivy. You know the type that goes around your fence, and you think you dealt with it, but then you realize it threw roots in a couple of other areas. Sometimes engaging in therapy is like that, where it's getting your hands dirty and it's really working on these. The other one, the other item I want to mention here is, what can you do? So each of these, they have what are called antidotes. Now, an antidote, I like to think about it as I'm walking through the woods, because I'm a big hiker. I've done some branches, if you will, or segments of the ATL, Appalachian Trail. So it's a story for another day. And when you have these, I think about myself walking through the woods. Snakes got me. I'm like, help! I need the antidote. I need the anti-venom. I need some support here. So I share this story when I'm working with individuals, or different versions of it, because if you engage, as an example, in defensiveness, right? So defensiveness is where you are victimizing yourself. You're doing that to push off that attack, right? In a way, you're reversing the blame, and that's not good. So then you're looking at, okay, what can I do? Well, acceptance, vulnerability, right? Raise your hand. I messed up here. I effed up. I screwed up. That's on me. And being humble and being genuine and being honest about it, versus just accepting responsibility to get what you want again. So that's one example I shared it with you of, okay, if these are happening in your relationship, awareness. So awareness is great, being able to be aware that this is taking place. And then that secondary step of, what is the antidote? What I'm going to encourage here is, as I go over these antidotes, keep in mind repetition, right? We start with awareness so that you know that you're doing the behavior, right? Your spouse comes up to you and says, hey, I feel a disconnect right now in the relationship. And when we first met, those 3 months, we were just really connecting with one another. We were just there, seeing eye to eye, and I felt something, and I'm not sure what's happening. I want to talk to you about it, see if you're feeling that too. What do you think? You want to have this conversation with me? So then, your partner tells you all that, and in that moment, maybe you go, whoa, that's on you, right? You've done something. You've got yourself into that hole. Don't put that on me, right? So you're being defensive in that way. You're putting up this wall, and you're reversing it. You're putting the emphasis on them. So instead, in that moment, we want to look at taking responsibility. So that's accepting your partner's perspective, right? Because in that moment, your partner shared with you that they feel distant, they feel hurt, they feel disconnect. So maybe there it could be, you know what? I really appreciate you bringing this to the table. I can tell it's coming from a place of honesty, a place of love, and a place of concern. So I respect that. I honor that. And I want to start with, let's open up the conversation. I know it takes two to dance, and you and I have been dancing since we've met. And in the beginning, it sounds like I was dancing really great. And now I'm dancing not so great, but I want to talk, and I want to learn, and I want to grow with you. Right, so I gave you that example of a little role play there, and you can kind of see how the first one versus the second one, it shifts a little bit. It allows people to take responsibility, right? And once again, the Four Horsemen, so these are things that we want to stay away from because they can lead to separation or divorce based on research, it includes criticism, contempt, defensiveness, and stonewalling. And then you have these antidotes. So the one that I shared with you is the antidote of taking responsibility. Now let's go into the other three. Stonewalling, we talked about that. That's the big wall. You're avoiding conflict. You're avoiding your partner. You're withdrawing, right? The classic example is somebody in the movie, their partner comes up to them and they're trying to talk to them. And they grab the car keys and they're just standing there like a stone cold wall, right? They're either ready to go or they're not communicating. So the antidote for that one, if you're stonewalling, is, and maybe you're already thinking about it, it's soothing. It is, and I'm breathing into the mic because I really want you to picture that. It's imagine that you are, you're this wall, and when you take a deep breath and the breath comes into your body, it's as if you're pouring water into this wall. And I don't know if you've ever seen what water will do to drywall. You pour a lot of it on there and it'll start to really soften it up, right? And that's what you're doing. You're trying to go from this hard exterior to a soft, vulnerable, open, close, right? You are removing the distance. So that's what I want you to think about there. And one of the ways that I really enjoy doing this is through a physical self-soothing. So regulating the body. The next one I want to share with you is contempt. So for definition purposes, contempt is attacking your partner, attacking their sense of individuality, their sense of self. And there, with contempt, there's just this really area of insult. Sometimes they can get to the point of abuse that's happening in there. That's an example there would be, you're communicating with your partner, you directly attack them. You blank. You are lazy. You are, you're no good. And it's very similar to criticism, with the definition of criticism being connected to a attack towards your partner or the other person's personality, their character. The way I like to think about it is with contempt, you're going deep into a attack, because that you're attacking their identity, their sense of self. Whereas with criticism, you may be attacking a certain character area. Let me give you an example here. Before I stutter my ears off, you are, you're no good. All you do is lay around here, and you could see there how I'm highlighting character, or why are you always so social? Can't you just stop talking to people? Stop talking to people, right? So there, I'm really going after their personality. Maybe they're social. And I love when they're social with me, but I become insecure and jealous when they're social with others, so then I criticize. With criticism, since we're on that one, the antidote for that one is a gentle startup. And it's exactly what you're thinking. It's where you gently talk about what's happening using the powerful I statement, right? So I, and when you go from the I, it slows things down. It's soothing. It's supportive. The criticism, it's in the other direction. Criticism goes you. So there, when I look at the relationship, I think about criticism. Another example here as you're in the courtroom and it's like, you did blah blah blah, or isn't it true that you did blah blah blah? Whereas the gentle startup is I'm going, I feel hurt when we don't have our quality time. The last one here for contempt. The antidote there is appreciation. It is reminding this person in front of you, right? Being able to get a highlighter and you're highlighting, right? That's what I like to think when it's a reminder. I'm really putting attention to it. Their attributes, their qualities, what they bring to the world, right? It's spending time developing that into a culture. So something I do when I work with couples, and you can run with this, is I'll ask them, tell me about the culture of your relationship. And really what I'm looking for is their unique definition of it. I got mine, but my relationship is mine. Their relationship is theirs. I need to figure out their way of viewing it. And to some degree, everyone's got some kind of culture, right? A culture really is you taking a step back and looking at what's in front of you and how that's made up, right? And we see cultures in all sort of manners and perspectives. You know, if I walk into your house, there's a culture within the home. Is everything neatly organized? Is it loud but together? Is there laughter? Is there walking on eggshells? What's the culture? And how long has it been developing like that? Right? So those are things that are important to know. So with contempt, attacking the self, right? The identity of that individual, the antidote that we want to really go towards is I want to build you up. I want to build this culture up, and I want to add in there into that bucket. I want to add in there love, gratitude, positivity, highlighting qualities, highlighting yourself. And you know when you're doing this right. Here's something that one of my mentors told me a while ago when it comes to this area. They said, when you're doing this right, you want to be there. Like you get off work and you want to go to that culture. That culture could be the zone of the relationship with you and your partner. And when something comes up, you're okay going, I don't really want to do that. I'd rather spend time here. Right? Those are sometimes these subtle signs that you're developing it effectively. My hope in this mini segment here, we're under 20 minutes, is that you got a nugget, you got a tool, you got a short conversation about this area called the Four Horsemen of the Apocalypse, these criticism, contempt, defensiveness, stonewalling, and then you also got a little insight into these antidotes or these areas that you can start engaging in. All of this that I'm sharing with you, it can be something that you can work on an individual level. So when you're ready or when you currently are working to strengthen a relationship, it could be that you work collectively with you and your partner and a counselor. So both are okay. Individual counseling, it's okay to work with these. Couples, is okay to work with these. This work here, it comes from the Gottman Institute, so you can Google that. That way you get a little education on your own. And that's Gott with 2 T's, M-A-N. And we went over the Four Horsemen. My friends, I hope that you found this helpful. Over at the podcast, The Couch, I encourage you to share this with somebody in your circle. Be a ripple effect, if you will. I like with my kids throwing a rock in the water and just seeing how it ripples. And it reminds me of my role in this life of trying to be a ripple for others, whether it's holding a door or saying, hey, here's this neat podcast I listened to. I think it could go a long way. Check it out. So I encourage an action. Take care. I'll see you in the next one.